When a woman is around the age of 12 to 14, her ovaries will start to mature. The reason is because during a woman's early teenage years, a release of hormones in the body will trigger puberty.
When the eggs in the ovary mature, along with other chemical and physical assets, it creates a process called the menstrual cycle.
We are going through this process in a step-by-step procedure.
While we explain this procedure, we will explain the hormones involved in this 28-day cycle.
Without further ado, let's get right to it. Day 1. A structure made out of tissue and blood vessels that nurtures the egg in the uterus is called the endometrium. This structure is also known as the uterus lining.
The uterus lining will shed, which causes bleeding in the female. The egg that is in the uterus will also shed along with the uterus lining.
The shedding is caused by low levels of progesterone, the hormone responsible for maintaining the uterus lining. This sparks the cycle of menstruation. Once the uterus lining sheds, that means that stuff is about to go down. Really wanted to say the word.
Day 3. An egg is starting to mature in the ovary. The maturation of an egg occurring in an egg sac known as the follicle.
A hormone called FSH, which stands for follicle-stimulating hormone, activates the maturation of the egg by stimulating the growth of the egg and the creation of the follicle itself. Day 5. While the egg is maturing, the uterus lining is completely shed.
The structure is thin due to all of the tissue and blood that was lost on day 1.
That will lead us into day 9. The egg is almost fully mature in that egg sac. A couple days later, the egg is now ready to be released from the follicle.
The hormone that stimulates the release of the egg from the follicle is called LH. That stands for luteinizing hormone.
Just before the egg is released from the ovary itself, the uterus lining is going to start thickening again to prepare for nurturing that egg.
Day 15. The egg has been released from the ovaries, now in the fallopian tubes of the female reproductive system. This is when two separate paths of the cycle start to form. If a woman is not pregnant, there will be no sperm cells pregnant. If a woman is pregnant, then the sperm cell is going to fertilize with the egg.
Day 17. Not pregnant. The uterus lining is still thickening. A couple more days later, the uterus lining is very thick, and the egg is going to start moving into the uterus.
Day 17. Pregnant. The fertilized egg, known as a zygote, is growing through mitosis. The zygote will then develop into an embryo. Once the embryo reaches the uterus, it will bury itself into the uterus lining.
Day 24. The uterus lining is at its thickest. Since the woman is not pregnant, then the uterus lining and the egg will be ready to shed again, and the cycle will begin again after day 28.
Day 30. The cycle continues if a woman is pregnant. The uterus lining will keep getting thick to nurture the baby that as the embryo is still growing in the uterus. The embryo is dividing and growing through mitosis.
Day 90. The embryo will now be considered a fetus, and it is still growing through mitosis.
Day 266. The fetus has been growing for a while. After the birth of the fetus, then the cycle will return to day 3 of the cycle.
That's it for this video. To learn about the background of hormones, check out our Hormones and Feedback Mechanisms video right here. Welcome everyone to the Stick Bros podcast, where we answer your questions about our videos. They can be fun questions and they can be scientific questions. So we never really talked about this in the video, but the endocrine system, it makes up all the glands, that makes up the endocrine system, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, thyroid. You probably have heard of that before. You probably have heard of that before. You have the ovaries and the testes. Those also make part of the endocrine system. There's not really much to it. That's just the endocrine system. It's all the glands, all that jazz. Yeah. Good question though.
Superman 127 asks, what are all the hormones you can name in the body? So,
this is a tough one.
Yeah, it is. So I'm going to separate them into 2 categories: sex hormones, non-sex hormones. Mm-hmm. So sex hormones, we can go with LH, FSH, oxytocin, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone.
Yep.
And then for non-sex hormones, we can go with adrenaline, insulin, thyroxine, and growth hormone.
Yeah, I think it's thyroxine, right?
Thyroxine, yeah.
I remember seeing that somewhere. I remember seeing that somewhere. I just don't know how to say it, but I'm thyroxine. You know, I love my prefixes and suffixes, so I'm gonna guess that's from the thyroid gland.
Yep.
Because it's thigh, it's in there. Let's see. Yeah, growth hormone we know comes from the pituitary gland. Testosterone, estrogen those are sex hormones. The estrogen, progesterone, those come from the ovaries. Testosterone comes from the testes of male. Again, that's a prefix. I love my English and my prefixes and suffixes, Foster. But I would say, let's see, insulin. Doesn't that come from the pancreas? And then, I don't know where adrenaline comes from. I'm going to be honest with you. That is something that is some outside research we're going to have to do.
Yeah, but I think it comes from I think it has its own gland, because I remember in health class we talked about it.
It might be. I don't know. Someone's going to have to clarify that. And then we know FSH and LH. You know where that comes from, right?
Yeah.
Pituitary.
Yep.